I attended my own funeral. Let me explain. But before I do, I need to disclose that no one died or was injured in the making of the speech. On a typical day where I was happily playing solitaire and checking out Facebook at work, I got the call. June 6th, the anniversary of D-Day. Now World War II, displacement day. The day my 23-year job was eliminated. Just like that, it was all over. Hard work, tenure, and skills had nothing to do with this cost-cutting decision. Is it curious that my first thought wasn't to call my wife, that I had to find a new Toastmasters club? On my ride to work on that fateful day, a news report announced 175,000 new jobs in the U.S., making the unemployment rate 7.6%. On my ride home, I was on the other side, one of the 11.7 million unemployed. To grasp the magnitude, take the entire population of New York City, then add 4 million people. The call was like a shot to the head. I was being put to rest and people were preparing for my funeral. Condolences rolled in, hugs happened, tears flowed. How do people see you when you're gone? An old manager once asked if I ran through a wall, would people follow? At the time, I didn't know the answer. I needed to know the answer. That was a lifeline, a call to action. Fast forward 6 years later, I don't recall a more calming day. A day of self-reflection, a chance to hover over my dead body and ask, was my life and career a success? The notes flooded in. Tom, you touched me. Personally and professionally, more than you'll ever know. Tom, we love you. This is your next speech. I ran through a wall, and people followed. But how was I going to tell my 3 daughters that Dad was being sent to the farm just like his childhood dog? The spending freeze on shoes, clothes, and pizzas worse than death to teenagers. My middle child's head tilted at a Moore's angle as a tear slowly rolled down her cheek as if to fall on my casket. My youngest held me in a bear hug as if it was the last time ever. My social media conscious 16-year-old told me that all responses to the relocation question on Facebook are no. As if I had a choice. The denial, the anger, the acceptance, the exhaustive feeling of having my family watch my own demise. But my support system refused to let the last nail go into the coffin as they put in a crowbar made of emails, phone calls, and leads. I was being resuscitated. How many of you have a will prepared? A will reduces stress and chaos. The run through the wall question 6 years earlier had been my wake-up call. I didn't realize how it would prevent my professional passing. My eyes were wide open as I built an extraordinary career-saving, life-changing network. In Keith Brazzi's book, Never Eat Alone, he notes, build it before you need it. Real relationships built over the years provided me meaning and are the reason for my success. I wasn't 6 feet under. I was 6 degrees from Kevin Bacon. Or at least my next big lead. I wasn't flatlined. I was alive, and my support system was my CPR. My job loss was a celebration of life, not a funeral. It reminded me how deep my love was for my network, my family, my friends. I wasn't defined by my job. I defined my own life. I was going to do my funeral my way. No, I'm not going to belt out tonight. I lost my job, but I found me. I use my displacement as a reaffirmation that when I leave this earth, I'm leaving with no regrets. Think about your own funeral. When your spirit's hovering over the mourners, did you give them something to mourn about? That didn't come out right. So let's go back to the original question. Have you ever imagined your own funeral? Who will do the eulogy? Who will be your pallbearers? Who will attend or even care? My eulogy was shouted out by the many key people in my network who blew my trumpet with humbling accounts of who I was and had become. My pallbearers carried me when I couldn't go any further. The overwhelming flood of notes and messages showed who cared. I have to admit, I started writing the speech immediately after I lost my job, including the end. We all know we're going to die. Not that end. The speech end. The one where I secured a job. It's not overconfidence. Just a belief that I was surrounded by an ironclad network that refused to stop giving me oxygen. Are you ready for your own funeral? I saw mine. And it was beautiful. What the heck does that have to do with a book reading? What's that have to do with the book reading? Okay, so people, I hope I got your attention. People were engaged.
It was storytelling.
There was storytelling.
Everyone could relate.
There is some type of relation there. We're either all going to die or we're all going to work at some point in our lives, potentially. I usually have an introduction. The librarian or someone gives the introduction for me. A very short introduction to lead into who the heck is this guy showing up on our doorstep. That is the introduction to my book Displacement Day when my job was looking for a job. That is the introduction. How many of you have ever sat in a book reading and saw this? People get busy. Let's be honest with ourselves. Most networking sessions and conversations with people about possible jobs are more important to us than people with whom we're talking. I heard many off-the-cuff comments such as called in a couple of weeks. While I know most of us may give it an instant response similar to a building, I thought I was differentiating myself and ensuring action when I immediately put the follow on. Oh, wake up yet. How many of you honestly have ever attended a book reading where all it was book reading? Okay. And it happens. And by the way, we're very proud of what we put between us. However, if that is the only thing that you're doing, you're among the masses. And it's very important for you to think in terms of you're here, just like a social media, to entertain. We're here to grab and relate to the audience. We're here to share a message. Are we here with a book reading to sell our book?
Yes.
We'll be real. Yes. But it shouldn't be the primary goal. It should be an ancillary goal. And I'm going to show you some information that's from Book TV, a couple examples. And even in those examples, there might only be 10 or 20 people in the room. That's okay. And sometimes we get this unrealistic perception of, I'm going to have a book reading, 1,000 people are going to show up. I have been to book readings where I unloaded boxes of books in anticipation of selling 3. And I was lucky to get the 3. They were family. We have to be real, and you have to understand what our goal is while we're there. And it is to send a message that we have about the book. So what is a book reading? Let's talk about what definition it is. Anyway, when you say I'm going to a book reading, what do you think you're walking into?
Generally, I would expect just what you did when you were like this. You know, because that seems to be what most people do. And I know an author who does it very differently. Not you, but another person.
And I haven't been to enough that say everybody does that, or most. I can't even say most do, but I have been to some where they do that. And I think that's the opportunity for us, and that's what I want to bring about. And by the way, I am, and you've only known me from this morning in some short interaction, I am in the present tense painfully shy and introverted. And that is the truth. I'm not going to run up and down aisles for you. Okay, maybe I will. Because I get excited about the messages that I send. But that's what's important to me. You do not have to be fully up in your face, woohoo! When it comes to public speaking or when it comes to a book reading. That's not the message I want to send you. The message I want to send is You have an important message to send. Find a way to have that story come alive. So how many of you have an elevator speech? What is an elevator speech? We'll start there. Anyway.
A brief discussion of what your book's about.
A brief discussion about you and your book. In this particular example, it will be about your book. If you take nothing more out of today, I want you to go home in the next week and write your elevator speech. A 1-minute version, a 3-minute version, and a 5-minute version. Not a 45-minute version, by the way.
Unless the elevator gets stuck.
That's what?
Unless the elevator.
If the elevator gets stuck, you can start adding the 1, the 3, and 5 together. But when it comes to your elevator speeches, you have to be able to articulate verbally what you want the audience to come out of this. So I asked, is the primary goal to sell books? And the answer is no. So if the book isn't the most important part of this thing, what is? Of this whole thing, this book reading?
Selling yourself.
Selling yourself, but who's the most important person in the room?
Engage in the audience.
It's your audience. It is for you. As speakers, and this is a lesson I've had to learn the hard way. As speakers, we want to sell our message, ourselves, social media, sell our book, and it's me. But when you get into one of these situations, it's not about you. It's about the audience. You have, if you've done everything right, and you've promoted yourself and promoted the book selling or the book reading, and you get people that come into the room, you've already done an awful lot. You don't have to sell them anymore. Now you have to entertain and give them something to think about and to carry away. A book would be nice, but the message is even nicer. If they can carry a message away, because even if you don't sell a book, here, there's some people that might sell it on Amazon. And I love going to conferences and I'll sell nothing. And once a week I'll go into my little ranking on Amazon and I'll see the spike because I sold 2 books. But it's okay, it's still a spike. And know that somewhere my message got across to someone somewhere. And they can start telling other people about it. That's what's most important because the word will spread. You'll find your gold somewhere. But if I get my message across to one person, I've done exactly what I need to do because my goal is not to become a New York bestseller. My goal is to get the message across to someone who comes up to me and says, what you said meant a lot. In Toastmasters, there's this speech projects you do a bunch. Anyone know what Toastmasters is? Okay, Toastmasters is an organization of 313,000 people spread across 127 countries to improve communication, public speaking, and leadership skills. So you do these projects and you learn to gain confidence in your communication style. And one of the projects is an interpretive reading. And I was at a conference 2 weeks ago, but she came up to me and she said, Tom, remember the project on interpretive reading? I said, yeah. She said, I picked yours. I picked what I just did. And I call it Beautiful is the name of the chapter in this book, Displacement. And she said, Tom, it was amazing. You should have seen the looks in their eyes. She spread my message to 40 other people, and she made my day. She made my week. She made my month. And I got my message across. Nothing beats that. That's what your book reading is all about. That's the goal you want to walk away with when it comes to a book reading, is have someone so passionate about the words that you chose, the things that you read. They're not going to read someone mumbling through a bunch of chapters. They might remember a character if it's nonfiction. They might remember a lesson if it's business. They might remember a part of a poem if it's really hits home, the cultural, the political, whatever hits home and resonates with you. But you want them to remember your message and spread the message. And Darcy does such a nice job with that with her social media and with her messages and her book reading. She has gone from a very good book to a very good message of, I want to know what's going on with her characters. I want to know what she's doing. And they're going to continue to come back as loyal fans. And I mentioned it this morning, build loyal fans, don't build a massive number of fans. That's not what it's about. So I'm going to give you some examples from Book TV. And I want you to think in terms of what did you like about it, what did you not like about it. I'm only going to show little snippets. topic of the book is not relevant on what we're talking through here. But I want you to look at the process of a book reading. The first one is simply the concentration on the introduction.
It's been my very great pleasure to introduce our speaker several times in the past, but more importantly, to read some of the seminal work he has done. He is the author, among many other things, of Losing Ground, co-author of Developer, author of In Pursuit of Happiness. I wish I could tell you you could buy all of those and more at our bookstore, but I have our bookstore's inventory of Dr. Murray's books. I took one copy of Achieving Happiness, accomplishment. There's one left out there. The National Journal has ranked him as one of 150 people who make a difference in policy making in this country. Sometimes I know he feels like he is tilting at windmills, but I can't imagine a better Don Quixote. His topic today, talking about tilting at windmills, too many kids are going to college. Here to tell you why, Dr. Charles Murray.
What'd you like about that?
I like Lisa's images. I love the Don Quixote, the tilting at windmills. That sort of brought the thing alive.
Okay. So there's some imagery from the person doing the introduction, and so he brought it along and carried us there and left us with something really strong for the introduction of the speaker. Good. What else?
I did like the fact that he mentioned how many books he had, and that was irrelevant.
So there's a couple things that's in here. Is the number of books there was irrelevancy in what he was talking about, and if it really was a book signing, you're saying, well, where do I buy it now? And this, the author, I hope, later on in the presentation ends up saying that. But now your mind is somewhere else trying to figure out what's going on here versus why do I want to listen to this person that's about to be introduced. Did you have a comment? Anybody? I felt, who do you think wrote the introduction? Do you think it was the author or the person doing the introduction? Okay, so it may or may not have been written. It may have been hidden somewhere on there, or he may have just gone off script.
Yeah.
I will tell you, when it comes to an introduction, as the author doing a book signing, a book reading, anyone who's going to introduce you ever, you are the author of your own biography. And the reason for that is threefold. Is one, you want to ensure that they're saying what you want said to help you transition into what it is. Two, you want them to be accurate. You want to make sure that they might know you from years and years and years, and they start making up these stories, which leads us into the other point. They might be sharing stories you want to include in your overall presentation. There have been many times where I've been early before I started writing my own introductions, where I would come in and someone would get a fact wrong or cover something I was about to cover, and all of a sudden now I'm scrambling and my presentation overall is not going to be as high in quality as I want it to be. It's important to remember that you own the introduction and it will impact how the rest of the presentation goes. It's like a referee at a sporting event. You never want to know that they're there. And you only know when something goes wrong. And that's usually what happens with someone who's introducing you. It should be short, concise, clear. Tell who you really want to be sold as in an introduction, and then move on. You should write your introduction, but you should also have your elevator speech. So instead of walking, you may not want to give an entire introduction of your book. You may not need or have the skills or capabilities or desire or want or confidence to give something that's 7 minutes without scripts in hand. I'm okay with that. And you should be okay with that too. I do this because I know the speech inside. And now it's become an important part of the book. I really did write that first part of the book without intention of writing a book. And then it just snowballed from there. And I share those stories through the book because I'm trying to teach people how to find a job and I don't have one. I've got a little bit of a credibility issue. And I went to networking groups, career centers, I targeted my libraries and career centers and plenty of other places, and we got to a deeper level of a conversation where they actually wrote the book for me. They said, well, have you thought about this? Or great concept, have you thought about this? And that's how the book turns into this other thing. So when I share chapters during a book reading, it has a story behind it, and I can share those stories. Your elevator speech should be part of this introduction, from your introduction, to share it with yourself and be clear and concise about it so you're not rambling on and on and on and on. I had some comments in my head when I first saw this relating to the introduction and trying to figure out who was this author. Did the author look engaged?
No. He was thirsty.
He was a little thirsty. Now, it could be, somebody made a comment in the earlier session, he was it seems like a very academic topic. He could be very academic. He's probably done this 1,000 times as a professor and many times over. Whether you do it one time or 1,000 times, it needs to be the most important thing that these people are going to look at and watch. It needs to be done with passion or don't do it. And I can't say, I've not gone through and watched the rest of this in depth. He is an engaging speaker. It's a great topic, and I'm sure once he got up there, he was great. But you are on stage all the time, and make it very important. So I thought the engagement and I thought the introduction, make sure that you're right here. Now we're going to watch.
Tom, could you show us what you look like when you're being introduced? I thought he looked humble, and I thought he looked probably like what he considered to be appropriately humble. But if I were saying, I'd like to introduce you today to Tom Dowd, he's going to rock your world, he's going to do this thing for you, what would you be doing meanwhile?
So I'm going to take you from meanwhile to the beginning.
Okay.
I'm going to hand my introduction to someone, and I'm going to set the appropriate expectations.
Right.
I beg of you, please do not begin. Do not go off the script. Please just read what's in front of you. And I'm being facetious here, but I would ask the person, I usually know them, or have gotten to know them prior to the event, and I'll say, hey, listen, I'm going to make it easy for you. Here's my introduction. Can you please read it verbatim? And they're like, yeah. And they'll usually like, all right, that's great. And I'll say, hey, listen, just because I don't want to cross over anything that you might talk about, if you could just stick to the script, I'd appreciate it. And so now they're reading exactly what you wrote, and now you know exactly what's going to happen as you get up there. You know the length of it. You know, so I know mentally where I want to be, and I'll sit there and be engaged. Now, I was the facilitator of this morning's event. Did I look bored when I was there? Don't say I don't know. I was engaged. I was listening. I was happy to be there. And I was enthralled with a lot of things that Bob was saying, what Jessica was saying. I really wanted to hear what they were saying. Now, I'm going to be polite, but back to your introduction of setting the expectations is, if they don't know who you are, you might want to say, hey, what type of tone are you going to have with the introduction? They may just say, tell them the type of speaker that you are. Maybe if you're more reserved or more academic or more whatever personality you have, you might want to throw that in there. I might say to them, if I know who they are, hey, listen, this presentation is going to be wild. We're going to get the crowd up and running and engaged. Feel free to let that out in the introduction, or hey, do me a favor, it's a book reading. Let's keep it reserved. You can at least establish the expectations you want set. So if I was there, the least that I'm going to do is be polite and engaged in watching their eyes and paying attention to them. That's the least I can do. The better off would be, as they've introduced me, maybe even make a comment while you're there. Thank you so much, John, for introducing me. It's a pleasure having you here, and then you go right into the presentation. Did that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
So this one is, we're going to listen to about 3 minutes.
Thanks so much for having me today. It's always a pleasure to come back to New York, where I spent 12 very happy years, beginning as a copy boy in the fall of 1982. The Times Square today is not exactly like the Times Square where I went to work, and that's mostly a good thing, I think, because sometimes I was afraid to go out and buy the Daily News at midnight. But I hope you'll forgive my appearing in shirt sleeves. First of all, as you know from the movies, it's how we journalists tend to work. Secondly, I run hot, and this room seems warm to me, although it's very cold outside today, so it probably feels good to everyone else. I'd like to take just a moment, if I could. I don't want to make extensive remarks because I'm interested in hearing your questions, and there's so much in the news about Iraq today that I think that would be the most constructive thing. But to take just a moment to describe a little bit about what this book aims to do and how it came about. Over the years, the Times has published books growing out of these events, but they've often been compilation books in which the previously published dispatches of the paper have simply been strung together with some connecting material. After the September 11th attacks, the Times had the notion to assign my colleague Richard Bernstein, and a book critic and now the Berlin bureau chief, to write a narrative from scratch about the rise of Islamic fundamentalism, the attacks on the Trade Center, the lives of the victims, and how all those stories came together on that awful September morning. And the book was very well received and a modest financial success, so the paper thought it should try to replicate that with a book about the war. And I was serving last winter as a correspondent in the Times Washington Bureau, to which I returned on September 11th, 2001. It was my first day back after 5 wonderful years in California. It wasn't planned that way, it just turned out to be that way. In any case, I took on this assignment, but I was an unlikely candidate to do it. I'd spent about a year covering the State Department, but I'd never been to Iraq, and sadly I still haven't been to Iraq. I never covered the military. I wasn't an embedded reporter, but I spent about 20 years of my life working at the paper, and I had the chance to write what was a sort of second rough draft of history of how this war came together, how it was prosecuted and fought, and how it's going in the aftermath, which we all know is still all too with us. As I said, we journalists tend to be used to writing the first rough draft of history for daily publication. This was a strange exercise for me in which I had about just under 4 months to produce about 110,000 words at the rate of about 8,000 words a week, starting on May 1st. And I did this by consulting our own published coverage, the coverage of other newspapers like the Washington Post and the Los Angeles Times, doing what interviews I could manage to do with senior American, British, French, United Nations officials to piece together some of the backstory. And then spending nights and weekends, I was released from my regular duties, but I spent that time trying to piece this together into one coherent story. Obviously, as you well.
Yeah, thank you.
Was that staged? Or was that real?
That was real. That was on book TV. That was on book TV. And I would never, ever fault an author or a speaker on their style. It's who they are, and that's one of the messages I want you to walk away with today. You are not to emulate, mirror, copy off of. Be yourself is the key message. And if yourself is to bury your nose in a book and read it, fantastic. If you can break yourself a little further out of it to give an elevator speech on who you are, fantastic. But be yourself when it comes to book reading. So let's talk about the things that we like, because I think some of you had some opportunities for this person. But let's talk about what you did like about this.
Gave a real foundation for the background of the book.
Okay?
I like
A foundation for the book, absolutely.
He quickly acknowledged his audience that the most important part of his presentation would be Q&A, that he thought that was the most valuable.
And I thought he was trying to get himself to a position where let's get to the Q&A, because that's probably his strength. That's probably where he was. And he did look very comfortable, as much as he says it's really hot in here. Woo! That he felt the need to say that, but he looked very comfortable at the lectern. And I've got to give him credit for that. He was very comfortable. He was engaging with the audience. He was having a conversation with the audience. And some people speak at the audience or read to the book and not to the audience. And so I thought he had a way with his words to be able to start 3 closed doors and all of them, and 3 open up. I'm like, hi! And someone said, oh, I didn't realize you were coming. They were in my rooms, and then they had to leave my room. And so and then there's a wedding party going on, loud music. I didn't sleep very well. And then I wanted to go for a run this morning, and it's raining. But I wanted to shave beforehand, and it's only cold water. None of this, by the way, it's all true. I'm trying to shave with cold water. There's no hot water, so I try to go to the fitness center because it's pouring down rain, and it's locked, and I had to go back to the front door, and then I had to wait for the manager for 20 minutes. Sorry, I'm not ready for my presentation today. But have you ever been to a presentation where someone says, I'm really not a good speaker? I'm sorry I was running late. Every single time you say, I'm sorry, you take a little piece of credibility away from what you're saying, even if it's an irrelevant point to the story. And that's the point I want to make. Don't apologize for being a bad speaker, even if you are. Because guess what? You're getting better because you're there. Don't apologize for being too tired. Nobody cares. Unless it's part of a book about being tired. I want you to be yourselves, but don't apologize for being there. And that's really what happens a lot of times. They apologize for being there, and I'm not ready to give you the best that I have to offer. I'm going to fake it, even if I'm not.
Well, actually, your narrative just then, your true introduction, I thought was quite entertaining. But I was sorry that you weren't going to continue that, which point I realized. But I thought you used a great deal of humor, and I think you really warmed up the rest of us here, empathizing and feeling badly for you that you had to go through all this.
You guys feel bad for me?
Oh, yeah.
But that was
But there it is.
his message.
And it was tied back to a message. If you randomly leave a sentence hanging of I'm sorry, and there's no point to the story, I would suggest leaving it out. And that's why having a prepared elevator speech allows you to get there. It allows you to at least have the messages of I can't leave without saying these 3 points about myself or the book. How many times have you walked out of a presentation as the presenter saying, oh, I meant to say that? Preparing your elevator speech allows you to do this. So don't apologize. I thought he did have a comfort level there. What's his book about? The Iraq War. Okay. So it's a very relevant, very present topic.
Yes, but he also spent 5 years in California before he gets there. I mean, it was never even been there.
So he instantly took a little bit of credibility. He did not apologize overtly.
No, you don't
He
have to.
apologized by saying, I never went there. And so now I instantly, as an audience member, say, why should I read your book?
Right.
And what was really interesting is he could have changed that messaging a little bit by saying, because I was not there, I have a perspective on a book that's going to differ from every other book about Iraq out there, and that's my selling point. He may have continued on with this. I'm sorry I didn't watch the rest of it. His opportunity was to say, what is your book about and how is it different from every other book that's on the topic right now? What is your book about? In part of your elevator speech and part of your incremental, how does it differ from every other book out there? The first time my literary agent asked me that question, I said, I don't know. I was just excited to write it. And that's where a lot of us are. But whether you're brand new or whether you've written multiple books, there's an opportunity right now for you to put down a paper, if you haven't done it already, to say, how's your book different from everyone else's? And nail it. Be clear and concise with it. So as we're talking about books, we've already said that our primary goal is not to sell them in a book reading. It's the secondary goal we hope that comes about because we have given a presentation of phenomenal content and phenomenal delivery, and people will walk away with the book. When it comes to writing a book, it's not about the sales, but how do we get to a point where we get to the book reading? How do we promote it? How do there to get them into the rooms in the first place. And some of it's been discussed a little bit today. Social media is a piece of it.
Press release.
Press release, very important. Whether you're doing it or your publisher or someone else. Postcards are a big one. Because you want to plant people in there. Family, friends, cousins, second cousins, long-lost cousins, married cousins, it doesn't matter. Just get people in there. But it's not about selling books. I sent a postcard around to about 100 people, and in it was included date, time, location, information a little bit about the book, ways to buy it if they don't want to buy it there. They can go online, so I have the ISBN that's on there. If you're going to have food, very important. On the types of food that you're going to have, food always sells, by the way. You can never go wrong with food. But you want to get the word out to get the people here. But in your preparation, in addition to promotion, you have to do stuff. Instead of just bringing a book, writing a note to yourself, hey, bring a book along with you. What's your strategy? And I'm not going to give you a formula that says every book reading needs to have a 7-minute speech, a 2-minute introduction. Before that, I will read 3 chapters, and I will do ... because it's not going to work for everyone. Figure out what's going to work for you and play to your strengths. So my formula that I use that works for me, that works for Tom, bits and pieces of this may work for you. I had the introduction, I gave my 7-minute speech, and I sat up on a stool, and I read. However, I didn't just randomly read. I picked the pieces that have so much meaning to me. The pieces in the book that are so important, that have some relevance behind it. This book takes you on a roller coaster ride from buying the ticket to the moment your stomach sinks, thanks to those quick drops, to the final race to the end, arms raised in jubilation. What I found with roller coasters is that many riders get on for the thrill of not only surviving, but the adventure of something that pulls you between fear and excitement. Your own ride is in front of you. And I move on. And they're bookmarked. And they are very specific to what I want to read. I know, I've read it, I'm prepared. It is ingrained, the things that I want them to walk away with. And then I have chapter roulette. And this is a part of engaging the audience and getting them to be part of this presentation, and me not just speaking to them, but speaking with them and giving them an opportunity. So there are 170 pages in this book. Pick a number. Please don't pick the end, it's the appendix.
64.
64. All right. No, I don't have the page 64.
66.
Be careful of predators. Maybe the word predator is a little strong. I don't consider myself a full-blown sales and marketing person, so maybe I'm a little more sensitive to this type of business. Immediately after I lost my job, some of the quickest responses I received from people with opportunities were from individuals involved in sales and marketing positions. Many were heavily commission-based with a bonus when they signed on new people. I remember years ago when a close friend of mine tried to get me involved in selling water purifiers. We agreed I would support him and go to one meeting. If I didn't like it, we would stop talking about it. I attended one meeting and instantly knew it wasn't for me. It was a business that worked well for him and taught him the skills that would make him an eventual giant in the sales world. And I might keep reading depending on the time frame that I have there. And now what I would do is talk about that chapter. Either how it came about, what inspired me about the chapter. I don't necessarily need to read the whole chapter. Most of mine are digestible chapters, usually 3 to 6 paragraphs. And I'll share that story about my best friend who was the best man at my wedding, who made me go to a water purifying sales conference. And we have some fun with it, or we talk about how that actually impacted me in being in sales and marketing, and how that related to dealing with this chapter about what I like to call predators of people who are looking to get you involved in tier marketing, I guess is the best way to phrase it these days. And so I have this engaging part part of the conversation with someone who shouted out the number or knew something about that, and we talked through it. So there's an opportunity for roulette, chapter roulette or page roulette, and then leave yourself enough time for Q&A. And when it comes to Q&A, there's a lot of points to it, but what are some things that you want to ensure happens when it comes to a Q&A?
People have questions to ask you.
That they have questions. So if you should have some plans. If you don't have some questions that are planned, which it's natural, by the way, and it happens. If they don't, I have some other bookmarks that I'm ready to read to get them that I know will get engaged in the conversation. So I'm prepared if that ever happens. You don't want this deafening pause that goes out there. So have questions ready, absolutely. You want to be clear and concise with your answers. You want to be able to, my reminder, it's my 5-minute mark. You want to get to a point where you are repeating the questions because you can't assume everybody heard the question. You want to actually answer the question. I don't want you to run down this tangent on what I don't. If you don't know the answer, don't. It's okay to say I don't know. My wife calls me on it all the time. But be clear and concise. And there's no number you need to answer within 2 minutes or 3 minutes or 5 minutes. But you do want to get to a point where you are answering clearly and concisely and making sure you can see either the looks in their eyes or the face that what you said made sense and you did answer the question. There's been a couple times where, you didn't answer the question. I was like, well, what can you elaborate or clarify and make sure you can do it? When it comes to Q&A, you also have to, you are managing the meeting. You are the facilitator of the meeting. You own it. You control it. You cannot let someone dominate it. You may not want to call them a heckler, but they might be someone who's dominating that specifically only wants to talk about their thing, their time. They might want to politicize it or religionize it, whatever they might want to do with it. And you might say, if you'd like to talk, we can talk. We can chat after. I'd love to be able to have a conversation with you after. But you own it. And you need to make sure that you own it. Part of that comes with the confidence of being up in front of a group of people. Again, whether it's 10 or 1,000 people, it's not, the number isn't as relevant as knowing that you own the stage because you're on it. By choice or by default, you still have to own the Q&A part of it. And you might want to say, listen, we only have 5 minutes left in this presentation, so I can only take one more question. Now, how's that for time? So I will only take one more question, and then I'll be at my table the whole day, and we can chat after. I'll be glad to have a conversation. Yes?
Would you recommend rehearsing and filming yourself?
My video camera is there. I will go back and watch that a couple times over. I will actually watch it in several different ways. I'll turn the volume down, and I'll just watch how an audience might see me without hearing me and see look at the gestures. I'll then listen to the voice inflection. I'm not going to kill myself for the mistakes, but I will write down some things and say, hey, maybe I can change it differently. I think I even misquoted the number of unemployment in my original speech. I think I said 11.7%. It was actually 7.6. So I don't need the film to tell me I made a mistake. I'll clear it up now. I'm sorry. But I will go back and take a look at it. And what that will do is it will make me a stronger presenter the next go around. I absolutely, unequivocally, if you don't tape it or do it in front of a mirror, do me one favor. Please do not wing it. As obvious as that sounds, people will say, I'm going to bring a book with me, and I'm going to let the hour fly or 2 hours fly. Please, I beg of you, please do not wing it. At least have something prepared and have a plan B if things don't work out. I will bring it back to the last part. Leave time for the discussion. Leave time for the signing itself. Know how much time you're going. Either have someone else tell you, give you a warning on time, or keep it yourself. It's important for you to stay on time and to achieve the goals that you've set out to do, and that's to entertain, to inform, to persuade, to every once in a while maybe sell a book or two. And with that, feel free to stop me after this, and I'd love to be able to chat with you at the table wherever you want to do. So thank you so much.